Hey, hello, everyone. Good day, and we're happy that you're joining us for this open house session for our Master of Science program. I would like to first introduce you to Dr. Jessica Bachler, who's our co-founding director of the Alef Trust, who will begin, describing our program. And we also have with us three of our alumni, and after some introductions, we'll be more than happy to take your questions and comments about the program and about the experience on the program itself. So right now I turn it over to Jessica.
Thank you very much, Nick. And it's a pleasure to be here and to see so many faces in the room. Welcome. It's really nice to have you here. So to give you a little bit of context, a little bit of an overview, I've put together some slides and I'm going to just jump into a screen share now and give a little bit of context, give you a little bit of a feeling for the lived experience of the program as it unfolds. And then we'll enter into that dialogue together with the three alumni who are here. And you're welcome to ask any questions that you might have about the program. So just give me a moment to enable the screen share and then I can get going with that. So let me know if you're seeing the PowerPoint full screen. Nick, is that showing up full screen, the PowerPoint?
Yes, it is.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. So this program, it's been operating now for 10 years. In fact, the Alef Trust is now 10 years old this year. And really at the core of the program is a sense of an international learning community that comes together in this MSc program over a period of 3 years, working in multiple ways, engaging the mind, the intellect, engaging the heart, really bringing embodied experiential engagement to the fore, and engaging the will. And you can see that here on this little figure that I've put together onto an international map, the combination of the international learning community with our commitment to deep diving into embodied experiential and intellectual learning together. That's really at the heart of our 3-year MSc learning journey, engaging the mind, engaging the heart, engaging the will, which is really about activating our action potential in the world. And I'm going to amplify those core components a little bit more now. And then I'm going to take you into the modular structure of the MSc program. I'll give you a quick overview of that. And then we're going to enter into dialogue and questions. Anything that you want to raise is welcome. I'm just moving the slide forward. There we go. So I mentioned that academic learning, of course, is at the heart of the program, is a major piece. The program is validated by Liverpool John Moores University. It's quality assured by the university. We have constellated an international faculty to deliver this program. And these members of the faculty all come with their own specialisms to deep dive into the cross-disciplinary exploration of the study of consciousness, spirituality, and transpersonal psychology. And what we're doing through that deep dive intellectual engagement is to examine our beliefs and our assumptions around what is the nature of consciousness, how do we understand spirituality in our contemporary world, how can we draw from spiritual traditions, indigenous traditions, and so on, in addressing the challenges that we're facing today in our global community. And together, we really go on repeated cycles, if you will, of inquiry to discern what it is that we can do with that knowledge to bring it to the fore in practice in various professional contexts. So we want to understand the nature of spirituality. We want to see what the lenses of psychology can bring to spiritual traditions, to wisdom traditions. And then we take that material and we, after a kind of deep dive into our personal understanding of these issues, we then turn it outward toward application. So academic learning is, of course, very much at the heart of this program. And that is then complemented with experiential learning. We can't really access ideas around spirituality and kind of deep engagement with the body mind and with ideas around whether it's eco-psychology or indigenous practices like shamanistic practices. We can't really engage with that body of knowledge if we don't practice, if we don't engage through the body. And so we cultivate other ways of knowing throughout this program in the various modules that unfold over the 3-year journey. And you're very much encouraged to bring your own knowledge and your own practice pathways to the fore here and to share with your peers what it is that you're doing, that you're already doing. Because of course, you're coming with a rich body of knowledge and a rich tapestry of spiritual and many other practices. So all of that is welcome, and it's enriching our shared learning journey together. So we welcome that multi-layered, multifaceted engagement in joined inquiry throughout the program, cultivating the mind and cultivating the presence and the presence of the heart throughout the learning journey. And then last but not least, and I mentioned it already before, we then very much place emphasis on applied learning in order to cultivate our action potential in the world. It's not news to anyone when I say that we are at a very tricky time in terms of humanity's evolution. There are so many big questions that we're facing together today in the world today. And this program really invites you to inquire into these questions, to bring your specialist interests to the fore, and then to explore and prototype and experiment with new practice models that you might want to bring into varying professional contexts. So you'll get the opportunity to apply transpersonal principles in your life and in your work, and then to discern through research what is the efficacy of these ways of working? How can we draw from transpersonal practices and apply them in the workplace or in our varied communities of practice? And what are the ethical implications of that? What does it mean to be engaging with transpersonal models in specific contexts? So these are all questions that are explored in depth on this program. Summarizing then, and to give you that complete overview, and you may have already familiarized yourself with this, but this is our modular structure for the MSc program, which unfolds over 3 years. And I would say that year 1 is very much about a kind of inward turn, looking at consciousness, understanding the nature of consciousness, both through theoretical lenses and then also through personal lenses. So we look at the cognitive neuroscience, we look at the relationship between depth psychological and mystical approaches to consciousness, and more scientific, like I said, cognitive neuroscientific approaches to consciousness, quantum scientific approaches to consciousness. And we complement that with a journey into learning through integrative practice, which enables students to design their own program of integrative practice over the course of the first academic year. And then there's also a module called Spiritual Psychology, which really looks at spirituality and various spiritual practices through the lenses of psychology. You can see there in the center of the slide, there's a circle there. That module on spiritual psychology opens up a range of specialist options that you can take. You choose 2 topics. There's a list there on the left-hand side that relates specifically to spiritual psychology. And then we jump into year 2, and year 2 is all about application. We begin by mapping the field of transpersonal psychology. We then deep dive into what it means to take transpersonal principles and to apply them in the world. That's the module Applied Transformative Psychology. And again, you can see there on the right-hand side in the circle, there are a range of specialist options, which really cater for that. So those are the kind of lenses we're deploying to see, okay, what does it mean to apply a transpersonal practice in the world? May that be in medicine, may that be in the field of counseling or psychotherapy, and so on and so forth. And then last but not least in year 2, and this is a critical module, research design. So here the emphasis is very much on learning research, understanding both qualitative and quantitative approaches to research, really understanding what makes good research. And you get the chance to design a group research project to live that experience of research before you then enter into year 3. And year 3 is different, because here we're very much focusing on your research dissertation, which takes you onto an individual journey, deep diving into a research project that is close to your heart, which is supported by an individual supervisor who will be your partner alongside that journey over the year. But again, you also get opportunity for peer interaction, ongoing webinars, and so on and so forth. So you're not on your own as you are journeying through your research dissertation. So that's the overview of the program in a nutshell and in a few minutes. But we're now going to revisit and come back to any of these aspects as we're speaking to the alumni and as we're addressing any questions that you might have about the program. So I'll stop the screen share there. And I'll see, first of all, whether there are any questions that you would like to raise at this point, anything you would like to bring up. Floor is over to you. Feel free to put things into the chat window. And maybe whilst you're doing that, actually, and thinking about this, could I invite one of the alumni to share a little bit what this program felt like for you? So we have here with us Deborah Gray, Lora Needham, and where are you? AD, there you are, AD Vickers, 3 of our alumni. So if one of you would like to claim the floor and speak a little bit about your experience, that would be great.
I'm happy to go. Yeah. No, you can go, Edie. Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, so all I can say is that choosing to do this master's program was probably one of the best decisions of my life. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that. Apart from all of us going through, difficult times with COVID, I had some other life challenges as well. Some illness in my family that was quite serious, and I honestly don't think that I would have been able to finish any other master's program. This program is extraordinary. It's I think this is academia at its very best. I was really scared at the beginning about turning my webcam on. And it's really strange to feel so comfortable with that, 3 years later. I felt very intimidated. I hadn't been in formal education for quite some time. I'm a practitioner, I'm involved in education. And Alef's ability to create this online community is incredible, whether it's reaching out. I was a member of so many different peer groups. Some of them are specific our research projects, and some of them were just because we decided to keep each other accountable and finish our program. And what I found was that even though it was online, it felt as real as anything in person. It's extraordinary. I ended up actually, because of COVID, I wanted to do something. I wanted to do my dissertation about education. And I ended up having to look at teacher presence online and how that can be creative and transformative. And it was so inspiring to be going through the program, being a student on this program, and realizing that it can be done. Because if somebody had said that to me a few years ago, I would have said, no, everything has to be face-to-face. But no. Alef Trust is incredibly good at creating a very intimate online space full of connection. The support, the friendships that have come out of this and the sense of community is absolutely extraordinary. I know I've used that word before. So that's what I want to say first of all.
Thank you, Adi. Thank you. I wasn't expecting all those compliments. It's very nice to hear what you said there. Thank you. It's very satisfying. It's very enriching also for the staff who are involved in this program, because it feels like we're in this together, exploring the very edges of online learning, but also the edges of what we know about being human. And we very much focus on discovering the lived experience of what it means to go into the unknown together and to live with the edges of cultural human evolution. So we're not just coming together, the faculty don't just enter into the learning space as experts, but really we're coming together in the spirit of co-enquiry. That's something I would very much emphasize. Yeah. Somebody asked in the chat window, I'll respond to that now. How would you define transpersonal? And there are many different kinds of definitions for transpersonal psychology. But the transpersonal, the sort of three core elements that I would emphasize in describing what transpersonal means. The first is that transpersonal means to go beyond the personal, transpersonal. And by that is meant going beyond an ordinary state of consciousness, going beyond ego, and identifying with something larger, something higher perhaps, or something deeper beyond the self. Another core element that always comes to the fore when you look at definitions of transpersonal is the notion of transformation, that we are looking, or that transpersonal practices are practices that are cultivating some form of transformation, a process of self-development, self-discovery, and so on and so forth. And then lastly, I would say transpersonal practices are concerned with whole person development, with integrative development. So they speak to the heart, they speak to the mind, they enable a fuller self-access, inviting in multiple intelligences, whether that is in the context of therapy, whether that's in the context of education, wherever you might be working. So if you're applying a transpersonal lens, you're looking at those multiple intelligences and seeing what they have to tell you about how you can adapt practice in your particular context. So I hope that's helpful to flesh out a little bit more what's meant by transpersonal. Keep those questions coming. I'm curious, Laura or Deborah, if you'd like to say a little bit about your personal experience, and feel free to speak about what was difficult, because that really fleshes things out as well. So don't hold back.
Okay, I can go. Thank you, Jessica. Hi, everybody. I'm Laura, and I am an alumni of Alef. I've just finished the program last year, and I think the most poignant part of being part of Alef is when you come into the program, it's sort of like you're inducted into like a family community. There's a lot of support if you need it and if you want it, and it's a really warm community that you can be as much a part of as you want to. And I think that's also quite important about it, is they also don't really put any pressure on you to kind of be over participating in everything, but there's a lot that you can get involved with and are invited to get involved with if you want to. So there's the program, and that's really important, and there is key kind of aspects of it and lectures that you attend, but there's also a really community feel about it, and that also doesn't stop when you end the program as well. You don't just get booted out the door. You can be a part of the alumni community again if you want to. The program itself is again, you really want to be a part of it. But for example, if you can't make a lecture, because one of the things that I was not too sure about when I first was joining the online course was, is it going to be the same online? Is it going to be the same to do an online master's degree? Would I be better to do an in-person one where I can go to a lecture hall and I can kind of see a tutor, etc., etc.? And they do a really good job of running an online course that makes you feel like you're, quote, kind of in the room in the actual lectures itself, but also at the same time, they're all recorded. So if you had an emergency or you can't be a part of it, you don't miss out on that lecture. You can still catch up on it later. And, you know, so there's also some kind of flexibility. It's almost better online in many ways. There's some group work as well. If you like doing group work, there's not a whole lot of it. So if you don't like doing group work, it's okay. But there's a little bit of opportunity to get to know the other students as well. They also do some kind of extra things like forum posts where you can have conversations and dialogue with the students, and that kind of you get to know your classmates, and that led to quite a few kind of friendships and relationships that came from that for me, from the group work that I did, from the forum post work that we did, which is like a, you know, conversation thread that we do on the various topics that we are engaging in, even in the dissertation module, which kind of is a little bit scary at first, because you've gone from 2 years where you are really sort of spoon-fed in a way, like lectures that you attend and assignments that you do, whereas it's like a big vast year of, I'm going to choose my topic and I've got to do it all. But the way that it's structured, it doesn't feel that way when you actually get there. You have a supervisor that is really there, you know, to help you all the way along. You've got module leaders of that dissertation module where you have regular lectures that you go to that you can ask questions, and they also give you a peer support group as well, which I found incredibly helpful. I found, you know, that I was going along the journey with these people. We helped each other out, we offered each other support. So I guess, yeah, it's fun. It's good fun. And the staff kind of make it fun as well. They are a little bit like kind of Jessica said, they're kind of with you. They're really approachable. And yeah, I really enjoyed the whole experience. I know, Jessica, you said come up with things that are like were really challenging, and I'm trying to think, because I'm sure there was things that were challenging. But, I mean, there was things that were challenging. I did the course during COVID, and that was challenging, and I needed to ask for an extension at one point, and that was handled really kind of emotionally supportive. So they are also very there for you if you have problems, or if things are going wrong, you feel like you can reach out, or I certainly did. I felt like I could reach out and I could ask for help if I needed it. So yeah, just the general environment. I kind of miss it a little bit. Actually, now I'm talking about it and what it was like, I'm thinking, oh yeah, it was really good. A bit nostalgic. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Laura. Thank you for that. I'm seeing there are a few questions that have come up in the chat window, so I'm happy to go ahead and address those. Let's have a look from Kristen. Curious about the class format, what that's like, and so on. We have a learning platform that we utilize called Canvas, and within that there's a webinar platform which is embedded in the learning system, so it's all integrated. It's not Zoom, it's called Big Blue Button. And but it functions very similarly to Zoom, so the experience is almost the same. But it basically means you've got one point of sign-in access. You go in there, and then you've got your course sites, and you've got a community site, and you've got special academic learning sites which attend to academic skill development, and you access those various sites. They become available to you as you journey through the program, and that is really your portal for engaging with peers and with the tutors on the program. In terms of the timings of things, that's something we're very aware of and very sensitive towards. Do bear in mind that we are somewhat UK-centric. A number of the staff are based in Europe, but we do also have staff over in the United States. And that enables us some flexibility in regard to how we're scheduling our webinars. And also there'll be sessions that you're scheduling one-to-one with a personal tutor, for example. You have a personal tutor who is assigned to you for the duration of the program. And that's really a pastoral support role. So if you have anything you want to discuss in terms of how you're doing with the workload, if there are sticking points for balancing the rest of your life with this program, which does happen because it is an intense program, then your personal tutor is there to really support you in figuring out how to navigate the learning journey. And so there's some flexibility in the timing of things. That said, we will have an academic calendar that we do try to map out ahead of time. So when you join, you will get a letter that will outline some of the upcoming webinar dates. We try to plan at least 6 months in advance, so you're getting that material, you might get it in August, and that will cover from September, October through to January, February, and then we'll update again, have more dates coming in as new modules start, but we try to give you advance notice of that. And as Laura said, the recordings are always available as well. And then where possible, personal tutors also make polls and ask their smaller groups what times would be conducive. And similarly, when you're working in smaller groups, we try to match you up with people in similar time zones so that you're not working with people in Australia, working with someone in Canada, and so on and so forth. So I hope that's helped a little bit there, mapping that out. Then we've got a question from Anne. Can you say something about the research project part? Is that the year 3 project, Anne? Am I assuming that correctly? Could that be something having a life beyond the satisfaction of satisfying the requirement of a program? So yes, I'm thinking it's year 3. Yes, okay, great. So it's an interesting one, because many people who join this program come with a kind of a calling, right, for something that they want to realize in the world, or are already realizing in the world and want to bring it to greater fruition. And yes, this research project will feed something of your personal interests or your professional interests, and enable you to see how you could perhaps prototype something, pilot something in a specific context, and develop your professional practice. So it's not unusual for people to work on a project and then carry on with that research, possibly going into a PhD, and or taking the fruits of that research, writing that up for publication. That has happened. A number of people have created new programs. Maybe I may have written even a book or a manual of some kind. So there is real scope for working with that project as a springboard for your professional career. And you will work with your supervisor to see, where do you want to take this? What's really meaningful for you? What is it that is of benefit to you and of benefit to the world? So yes, I'm looking around, Laura or Adi or Deborah, is that something you want to speak to as well? And then we'll come back to the chat window questions. Adi. Yes,
definitely. Because I came onto the program with the idea of, I was looking for a framework which would help me sort of bring more of a transpersonal approach to education. I'd already been working in the field of holistic education for, it'll be 30 years next year. So the course basically resonated with me immediately. I knew it was something that I could use. And I did, as part of my dissertation, I did create some sort of a handbook for teachers, and I'll be going on with that. I'll be continuing to use that. So very much, definitely, for me, it was about application from the beginning to the end and on.
We've got a little bit of lag there, haven't we, on AD's line? So it's hanging right now, at least at my end. Okay, I see a nod there from Deborah. So AD, apologies, we'll move on, but you're back. There was a fluctuation, but you're back.
I don't know if you caught any of that.
Most of it, but if you maybe just repeat the last few sentences.
Well, just to reiterate that there was a very strong, application component for me. I definitely wanted to be able to use what I learned. It wasn't so much about getting a piece of paper. It was more about getting a framework that I could then take back to my own work. And I've definitely got that and much, much more. So the answer is yes, definitely.
Thanks, AD. And I'm wondering, Deborah, you haven't had a chance to speak yet. So I'm wondering if you want to also address that next question that's in the chat window, which is about the experiential aspects of the program. Maybe you want to weave that a little bit into describing your experiences of the program. That would be great.
Yes, thank you, Jessica. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm overwhelmed with the amount of support, love, kindness, camaraderie, and just I feel so lost not being part of it anymore. But it's an amazing experience. And I think my first experiential side of it was when in year one, where when I first started, I was feeling very lost, but had this amazing support. And within the integrative practice and other things that Jessica and the other team brought in, I learned to be able to actually become in touch with my body and become involved in more experiential practices as it went along. And it was always there to support you. Not only in year one, but it went through all the years, 2 and 3. But I think going back to the integrative practice, that was sort of the turning point for me. And I know this sounds really strange because I'm 65. I actually learnt to grow up. I became an adult and it was like so exciting. but it's just, it embodies the essence of being human, the whole course. And even though it's very challenging, in each of the stages, we challenge ourselves and the work is challenging, but we grow. And then when we look back at year one, we think, oh, wow, that was easy, but it was difficult then. And then we have the challenges of the year 2, but then we have the forum. So there's no judgment. I didn't feel judged. I could speak honestly. And as a human, which is really a big thing for me. And it was just so moving. And the little groups of research groups that we were in that were able to support each other. And then we could meet and support each other on that level. So before the 3rd year research, we had a mini research, and that was so important. And we meet and we discuss it, and that assisted us to learn and grow, and all the other support people. And we had mentors, and it was just absolutely beautiful. And I probably think I should stop rabbiting now, but it was just amazing. And thank you.
Thanks, Deborah. And as you were speaking, I was browsing through the questions that are coming up in the chat window to make sure we get to them all. Tony was asking, do the course members and co-researchers ever meet in person? Yes and no. I say no because this is a fully online degree program. So theoretically, you can navigate this course without needing to meet in person. So there's not a requirement to meet in person. We do try to organize opportunities for meeting up, get-togethers, Alef days, as we call them, or Alef weekends. The last 2-3 years have been difficult because of the pandemic, so that was really disruptive in that regard. We do have a big birthday weekend coming up, so if you are joining this course this year in year one, you'll get the invitation to come along to our birthday celebrations in Liverpool. It'll be the first time that we're getting back together after about 3 years. We organize these events to have opportunities for socializing, for trying things out in person, of course. Sometimes they're more retreat oriented, and then they're very co-creative. So people bring different practices and share, and we dialogue, and we play, and we spend time in nature when we go on retreat. So that is a treat. It doesn't happen very often, but when it does, it's lovely. I really enjoy those moments. So Tony, thanks for that question. The library access piece was answered, but yes, you will be registered as students with John Moores University, so you will have access to the library resources of Liverpool John Moores University. You'll be a partner student of the university, and that's digital library access, so this is available to you no matter where you are in the world. I'm browsing through. How quickly are decisions made regarding applications? That's a little fluid. I'm looking at you, Nick, whether you have a sense for how quick that turnaround is, given that you have been managing our admissions for a long time now.
There's 2 ways to answer this question. The first is we have to wait for all the component pieces of the application to arrive. So a lot of times the application is submitted, it'll go through the first review by me, but we need to wait on reference letters, sometimes CVs, certificates. Once everything is in place, generally it's about 2 weeks, give or take. Again, it depends on the application, the experience, and so forth, but roughly a 2-week window. Throughout it, you will be in communication with me. Until you start the first day of class, I'll be your go-to person. Anything you need, I'll get the information, forms, people within Alef Trust staff to communicate and work with you.
Thank you for that, Nick. And whilst you were speaking, I was trying to pull up a document that would give me access to some of the kind of major authors or reading lists that we have for the course. And I don't have that information so up my sleeve because there's quite a range of topics that we cover across the modules. And there is specialist literature that we refer to in every module. But when you join the course, you will get those reading lists. They will be sent to you so that you can buy some books in advance. We mainly draw on electronic resources so that you don't have to spend a lot of money on buying books. But there are some major publications in the transpersonal field that we do recommend. And one is the Handbook of Transpersonal Psychology that was authored by Harris Friedman and Glenn Hartelius, or rather it was edited, and there were a lot of contributions from transpersonal psychologists from across the range of disciplines there, as it were. So that's one, the Handbook of Transpersonal Psychology. Then, of course, we'll have books that are specific to research design, books that are specific to consciousness studies. That module has been led by Professor Les Lancaster. There are some books that he has published in the field that have been really informing that module. But we're also drawing all the time from the latest research that is emerging in those disciplines. So those lists are being updated every year and change every year. So I don't have all of that up my sleeve, but I hope that's a little bit helpful. Yes, Nick.
I'd like to add, a lot of times
Yeah.
I suggest if you go on our website, on the far right, there's a tab called Publications. And this will be tangential to what you'll be reading and studying in the program. But specifically, one of the links is the Sacred Science Circle. And this at least gives you public access to a number of papers, peer-reviewed research papers in transpersonal psychology. This can give you a feel of the texture of what you'll be reading, what you'll be studying in the program. And I did include the link in the chat box.
Fantastic. Thank you for that, Nick. That's really helpful. There's a question here about the sort of career application of the degree, which is a really good question and a really difficult one to answer because it is so much a matter of where you're already at with your journey. And this program is as individual as you are. And the outcomes of the program are as individual as you are. I think that's a fair thing to say. So there is not one path. There are many different paths, and people draw on the body of work and the body of exploration in this course in so many different ways, and then take it forward into wherever they're based, wherever they're located in terms of their professional interests. But maybe either Deborah or Adi or Lora would like to speak to this point. Just having a look at the three of you to see if anybody would like to speak about how you've applied the transpersonal in your work.
I found that it did inform some of the research that we did. For example, when I started the course, I was a yoga and meditation instructor. And when we did the group research project that was done on, surrounding the yoga practice. So the research that I did for that really helped inform what I was doing. It also, the research that I was doing as part of the course helped to lead me in other career paths or directions that I wanted to go on. For example, for one part that I was studying, I was delving into research on sound healing, and that led me to a sound healing modality that I wanted to incorporate into my business, into my practice. So it kind of unfolded organically and kind of supported each other in kind of an organic and natural way. But I found that because what I was studying was in the sort of broad area that I was working in, that it helped to lead me down new career paths, or maybe not new entire career paths. My business in general is about healing, but it enabled me to incorporate new aspects into my business. I also discovered things about myself in that process as well, which also affected how I went about my business and my career. For example, I found out that I had aphantasia through the research and the conversations, which is not having mental imagery, and that was like a big, I don't know, mind-blowing thing that I learned about myself. I actually ended up doing my dissertation on the topic because I wanted to know more about it. So my whole dissertation was based on what I found out, and that then informed how I did my business. So yeah, it did.
Thank you, Lora. There's a question here from Stefan. If we are accepted at the start as a UK student, but then move to Canada, are we able to continue? Again, it's a yes. Well, it's certainly a yes. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. You can start this program in the UK, you can move to Canada, you can move to Hong Kong, you can carry on studying with us. That's not a problem. If you are drawing down a student loan, if you are a UK resident and you're accessing finance, then there may be implications if you're no longer resident in the UK. So that's a very specific point that would need looking at. If you are self-financed, then you could be anywhere in the world and complete this program. I'm just looking at Nick to see if there's anything else you think we should add to that point. No, okay, great. I'm scrolling through. There's a question here from Kristen, and I think, Nick, this is a good one for you, about information being available. I didn't see the instructions for preparing the application on the website. I understand there's a specific page that we keep for that, Nick.
Yes, the process usually is you inquire, and then we will send you to the link. There is a hidden page that is a resource page for the MSc for the application, and has all the information. What I'll do is I'm going to put my email address in the chat box. Any of you have any questions or comments or feedback, just contact me directly after the session, and I can connect you to any information or pages or anything specific to the application.
Thank you, Nick. And Joe, you're asking if you've got questions regarding open learning. Yes, of course, feel free to ask them here. So if you want to follow up in the chat window, feel free to do that, no problem. Julian, you don't have a formal background, a psychological background, postgrad in physical sciences. You don't have to acquire a formal psychological I was going to say conversation qualification before starting this degree program. It is helpful to have some background knowledge in psychology and or in psychological research, because we are approaching the field of transpersonal studies through the lenses of psychology. Same with consciousness studies and spirituality. We're looking through psychological lenses. So if you have background knowledge in some way through personal reading that you've undertaken throughout the years, and or you have professional experience, for example, as a counselor, psychotherapist, therapist generally. So those kinds of professional experiences can be really beneficial as well. That said, there are many professionals who've joined this degree program with other undergraduate qualifications who are, doing incredibly well on the program. You do need a good grasp of academic study and a good academic skill level in terms of researching and essay writing, report writing, and so on. If you have that, then you've got a good platform to stand on to undertake this degree program. I think that's one of the biggest sticking points, that some people come in and they've been out of academia for many, many years, and or they haven't really gone through academic skill development through an undergraduate program. That is where the sticking points are. That is where people struggle. We have had some people who've come into the program and have really found it difficult to navigate the academic assignments. So that's something to bear in mind. And we do try our best to provide a kind of support program for academic skill development, but it is a master's degree. So to a certain level, you're expected to have those foundational skills. So I hope that's helpful there, Julian. Looking a little bit further along. Okay, can you speak on the applicability of in the therapy field? Do we acquire the tools to open and manage our own practice? Do we have an opportunity to practice offering sessions under the guidance of a mentor? This is an academic degree program, so it does not equip you or train you as a therapist. So that's a very important differentiation. If you are interested in developing therapeutic skills and in working as a therapist, then we would recommend that you look at a program that trains you in that skill set. So it's a different orientation. We do have many people who are already practicing therapists and counselors who come to us because they want to specialize in the area that we focus on, namely the kind of transpersonal psychology, the lenses of the transpersonal. So it's those specialist lenses that people then draw on and apply in practice. But this is not a therapeutic qualification. So that's an important differentiation to bear in mind. We can signpost you to courses that are focusing in transpersonal therapies. That said, this may be a good course for you. So, I'm not trying to put you off, but I want to be clear that it's not a therapeutic qualification that you're gaining when you're taking this course. I hope that's helpful. There are modules, or rather options, that are looking at transpersonal counseling, transpersonal therapy, and so on, but they do not equip you to practice as a therapist. So they don't grant you license to practice as a therapist. They give you that insight into how the specialist lenses that we're bringing can be applied in those fields of practice. So I hope that helps. Yeah. Someone would like to hear more about aphantasia. Maybe we could, Lora, maybe we could connect you there. Yeah.
Yes, I have just replied underneath to Nicholas with the, and if anyone else wants to know, the aphantasia network has a real great breadth and overall, and also the test that you can do to see your level of mental imagery. And I think Fran is putting my blog post in the next newsletter. So if you are signed up to the Alef Trust newsletter, you may look out for that. Yeah.
Fantastic, thank you. I think I've come to the end of the questions there in the chat window. Anything that hasn't been covered or anything you'd like to bring up? Here's your moment. Do you have any helpful tips for completing the academic essay as part of the application? Yes, do take a look at, you know, if you're feeling uncertain about how to construct an essay, then do take a look online. There are so many guidelines for how to construct an academic essay. Nick, I'm wondering, are there resources that we recommend as part of the admissions process?
If any of you feel a little rusty, I suggest looking at Coursera. They do have a series on academic writing on master's level, and to just brush up the, you know, Coursera maximum is like $59 for a class, and you know, try doing that over the summer if you think you need to brush up on your skills. The other part of the essay, I've suggested to people over the years, also speak from your heart. This is not, we don't have this as some kind of mechanical recipe for accepting students. The ones who get the greatest benefit and experience from the program come from when they're speaking from their heart from the start. There's a connection there. So take a couple days and reflect, and then write out your thoughts, both for your personal statement and for the essay.
Yeah, can I speak out loud? I know it's all in chat. I was like, has anyone said use the voice yet? Yeah, so it's not the sort of academic side of it. It's just like, you know, it's quite a complex question, I suppose. It definitely does require quite a lot of thought. So it's more like, you know, like what you may be looking for, if there is any broad, if it's just how the person suits maybe, or how their experience might suit the values of the course maybe.
In terms of the academic essay, I think a big piece, Charlotte, and it's really nice to hear your voice. So, you know, can I encourage others? You can feel free to come in and speak. It's absolutely fine.
I find it easier, actually, I think.
Yeah, that's great. It's something about, we do look when we assess applications, and you're doing that academic piece, right? That writing that small academic essay or statement. We're really looking for how you develop an idea. So it's very much about the heart. It's very much about your personal motivation, but also if you have a particular idea or a kind of a belief around something, how do you interrogate that belief? How do you unpack that idea? You then draw from relevant literature, so you need to look around, and Google Scholar is fantastic for that. You want to draw from sources to substantiate your point of view. You want to kind of get into the idea that you're unpacking and see how can you look at it from multiple perspectives. So we're looking very much at how are you engaging with sources? How are you drawing on references to substantiate ideas? And we're looking at how can you illuminate an idea by taking multiple critical perspectives on that idea, so that you're not just saying, hey, this shamanistic practice is amazing and everybody should do it, but you're kind of going, all right, so-and-so has developed this practice. Somebody else wrote on this practice and there was some research and it showed that actually some people engage well with it, others don't. So it's a sort of mapping out of an idea and engaging it with it critically.
So maybe sort of from the dissertation, maybe, you know, like exploring that journey of how you come to it. And I think that's great. Thanks. That helps a lot.
You're welcome. It's good to hear your voice.
I'm glad you can understand my accent.
Absolutely. Yay. Anybody else who'd like to ask a question? And feel free to unmute. We've got a few more minutes. Something there, isn't it? Sorry, go ahead, please, Michelle. Come on in.
Hi everyone. Just a question for Deborah, Adi, and Laura. You've touched upon what you've taken forward in practical terms. You know, what you can how you can add value to the work that you do, or even it's taking you in a new direction. But I'm really curious about what's the kind of big takeaway for you as individuals. What's been your, I don't know, your greatest takeaway on a personal level rather than a professional?
Well, my personal takeaway is that I learned a great deal about myself. Just as I briefly mentioned about that, I found out that I had aphantasia, and that was my dissertation. That was really, I found out a great deal about how my inner world, how my mind, how my inner environment is different to 99% of other people's, which I absolutely didn't know before. The entire process, I've learned a lot about myself in general. For example, I did the shamanistic psychology module, which was one of the optional options from year 1. And we actually learn how to do shamanic journeys, and I can now do them on my own. And I met my power animals, and that was an amazing experience that I had from just choosing one of the modules on this course. So there, and I have had great deep personal insight that has come from that developed practice that I have, that I never would have got the opportunity to learn how to do, that I learned on this course. So I would say deep personal exploration is possible. And just comes to you, really. It just came. I mean, I didn't go looking for it in the course, but it definitely came to me. And that's just 2 examples. I mean, I don't want to hog the floor, so I'm sure the others have maybe got something to add to that. And there's only a couple of minutes left, so I'll just leave it at that. But that was just 2 examples of some deep personal insight and personal growth that came from my experiences.
I can say something as well. So yeah, like Lora, deeply transformational on a personal level. And our cohort experienced the program during the pandemic. And I remember, I think I was doing the creativity and transformation module with Jessica, which was absolutely amazing, I have to say. And I remember the feelings of knowing that I wouldn't be able to, I was living in Italy at that time, and knowing that I wouldn't be able to go back to Ireland and open the school that I've been working in for almost 30 years. And like a lot of people, I was in shock. And I really felt that the modules I was doing, in particular, the creativity and transformation module, really supported me in that, because it was an invitation to let go, to surrender to what was going on. And I spent a huge amount of time just sitting outdoors with trees, drawing, doing things that I never would have had time to do. And that was huge. And the other thing was, from an academic point of view, I had come onto the program. Obviously, I was called onto it. I never had to think. I never had to attend a session like this. I was so convinced. It just resonated immediately. But one of the things was I was in battle with the Department of Education, because being a holistic educational provider, I was always struggling with the guidelines and the standardization that had come into the educational sector. And I'd come in with this idea that I had to prove something. And I hadn't been in formal education for a long, long time. And I remember Les and Jessica and others on the team gently reminding me that's not what research is about. It's about an openness and a curiosity. And this whole process has been, for me, about a revisioning of what research is. And that things aren't necessarily, I came onto the program with one idea, but if we just stop and listen and open ourselves up to other ways of knowing, which this course definitely supported us with, we can discover that what actually called us onto the program was something completely different and infinitely more rewarding. Yeah.
Deborah, come on in. I think it feels right to give you a chance to speak there as well.
That's okay. Just for, I think what I personally experienced was being able to expand my consciousness through embodied practice. And I'll leave you with that little note, but thank you.
Thank you for that, and thank you for that great question. Yeah, we've come to the top of the hour. There was a practical question there from Derek. I'm wondering, Nick, whether you could briefly address that before we wrap up. So it was about reference letters.
All right. In regard to reference letters, the preferable is academic, but we also understand some of you, it's been 15, 20 plus years since you were at university. So when you're not able to procure an academic reference, the next level would be a professional reference. Somebody, it could be your employer or even a past employer or somebody on that professional level who knows about your interest, your work ethic, and so on. It's very similar to a job reference letter. In this case, it's applying for a program and that you have the interest and the drive to connect with it. And should you have any other questions about it or anything else, just email me and we can email or frequently chat on Zoom or WhatsApp. And I'll it was asked, I'm going to post my email address again.
Thank you, Nick. And thank you to Deborah, Lora, and Adi for being here with us today to help illuminate a little bit what it's like being on this program. And thank you to all of you who were here today, who've taken the hour to be with us and to post questions and to really look into this and see, okay, what's going on behind the scenes. If you have any further questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to Nick and the admissions team. And we would love to welcome you into this community and into this program. So we wish you well, take care of yourselves, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you, everyone. Bye for now.